And we're now live. So, hello everybody. Welcome to the Q&A and critique number 98. It's currently 1813 in UTC time on Friday. And I'm here today with a very special guest, Pojo Quiet. So, how you doing, Pojo?
Hi. As stated previously, I'm kind of nervous, but also very excited. I was surprised that I was asked to be here, and and I'm just overall excited to talk about nerd 3D stuff with you guys.
Yes, I'm very excited as well with the things that we're going to be talking about. So today is it's a special day. We're going to follow, though we are following a little bit of a format. We're going to be taking a look at Pojo's art, his animations, his work, his portfolio, his history, his story, the origin story. We're going to take a look at a little bit about the technicals when it comes to NPR characters. How do you make them look so great and move so great? And also a little bit about everything that he has done over today. So stay in tune, because at the end of the show, we're also going to be opening up the microphone, optionally, for questions from you, the audience. And also, if we have time, also take a look at the art from the community and the finished art in the B4 Artists Discord server. So if you're tuning in, I hope you enjoy, and I'll be trying to pay attention to Twitch and YouTube. So if you have questions there, feel free as well. So without further ado, I guess let's begin at the beginning. So Pojo, where did it all begin? And what do you do today?
So on 11th of February of 1999, I was born, and doctors were amazed because I was the first person to be born with a default cube and deleted on the spot. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I've always been an artsy kid. I always initially I was in love with illustration. That was my first passion, was drawing and painting. Then I started picking up with music as well. Playing around. Someone gave me a camera when I was a kid, so I started filming and doing photography. And I really loved the aspect of making art with a computer growing up. So I really liked the part of editing, photo editing in Photoshop, and collages, motion graphics with After Effects and things like that. And towards high school, I started filming more, and so I decided to take a bachelor in filmmaking. It was only after my bachelor, or towards the end of my bachelor, that I actually started learning 3D. Mostly because I've had heard that Blender changed their UI. And the first time I opened Blender, I was scared of the UI. I didn't know what to do. But when they changed it to a little sleeker, for some reason, it made me feel more comfortable getting started on learning it. And that was about I think 4 years ago now, something like that, that I got started, at first very slowly, learning 3D by myself. And then I eventually landed a job in graphic design and advertising company here in Portugal. A very small team. I learned a lot there. The 3D department was just me and another guy. He taught me a ton of things, and I just kept wanting to learn more and more, and having a 9-to-5 job that gives you a new task almost every day really helped me learn fast, I think. And yeah, but eventually I felt like I was hitting a ceiling in terms of how much I could learn there, because we had very fast turnarounds and things like that. And I wanted to do something where I had more time to perfect things and to level up my standards, if you will. And so I decided to quit and pursue freelance, which I started this January. I've been a full-time freelancer since. At first, I wasn't even looking for work. I thought, I don't know if I'm gonna get work, so instead of trying to look for it, I am going to move in with my grandpa so I don't have to pay rent, and just invest on social media and on making projects to figure out what can I do. because at that time I had only done 3D work for the company, and so I wondered like, what can I do? What can my skills lead me? And during the around the same time, the Endless Engines challenge came out, and that was pretty much the first thing that I did after I got started as a freelancer. I also started investing more time in social media and also on developing some tools to put up on Gumroad and things like that. And by tools, I mean mostly geometry node setups and a few textures.
Yes, I remember you started doing some November work with that.
I was still at my old job on November. My boss didn't appreciate it too much because I spent a lot of time at work working on those pieces. Um, but that was one of the few times where I started to feel like I could be doing more with my skills if I had more time to focus on it and to develop my own style instead of just trying to fit into other companies and stuff like that. And that's what it was very helpful in taking the leap. November really made me realize, like, oh, maybe I can do something with my current skills. And so I did. Shortly after Endless Engines, I started working with Bucket Boy. He's a 3D animator, and he commissioned me a few geometry nodes tools and things like that, and we started getting along really well. He pulled me in for a few small projects, and one day he just calls me and says, "Hey, we have a music video for Metallica to do." And I was like, "What?" I was doing sausage commercials 2 months ago, and now I'm working for Metallica on a music video. I was incredibly lucky, uh, and it was a lot of fun, although stressful because we only had 2 weeks to make 2 music videos. Well, not just us; we were the 3D team. Then there were a bunch of 2D animators as well doing the main character animation. We were mostly doing environments and a few effects. Um, and yeah, that was, let's say, my first real gig in freelance. That's when I actually started to get some work done instead of just investing on social media and things like that. And then after that, we did another music video, and on the side, I not another music video. We did another 4 music videos for Suicide Boys, and we've been I've been on the side just trying to do my own silly projects, still trying to push my limits and figure out what I can do and what my style is. And I think that's a good recap.
Yeah, that's quite a summary, and it's coming through. And you've started with a bang, getting into it. So, when it comes to the freelancing, how has the experience been thus far? Have you been satisfied with the work? And if so, what are your expectations at the moment? Are you currently working on a project right now?
I'm working on a thing or two I can't talk about, unfortunately. Um, but I've been enjoying it. I'm still, as I said, living with my grandparents, so I don't pay rent. So I'm not really. I don't think I have the full experience yet because I'm not really working for survival. I'm still. I still get to pick projects over if I like them or not, while making savings and things like that. Um, and so far it's been great because if I'm not particularly interested in a project, I can just say it, and I'm not risking my rent uh, in the process.
Yes, I know that
But
feeling.
also working with Bucket Boy, he has a lot more experience than I do. Has been really affirming. He's teaching me all of the red flags and all of the, everybody got as nightmare clients. He's been kind of teaching me the ropes in that sense. And I think I've been teaching him some of my ropes as well, like as a just a different perspective. And it's been a really interesting process.
Very good. Oh, well, yeah, NDAs, I guess we can't circumnavigate around that too much.
Yeah, I can say because it's just about the process. It's not really about anything in specific. But on one of the projects, we're doing right now visual development. It's I'm just gonna say it's a short film, not about what or anything. But we're working on the style of rendering that we want because, well, we obviously wanted to go NPR, but there's so many ways you can take NPR,
That's
right?
right.
And so we've been in contact with an illustrator who's acting as a consultant on our project, which is something that I've been enjoying a lot. Where essentially I develop my shaders and a scene where we have a proof of concept scene set up, and I make it, and then we meet, and he does drawovers and things like that, and it's been incredibly helpful on the procedural sense to understand both his workflow, how someone paints, how he layers things, and how I can translate that into nodes. But also how he frames the paintings and things like that in terms of camera framing and framing the objects and things like that. It's been a really interesting process to get to know, to bring some of the knowledge from 2D into 3D, that directly, if you will.
It's cool. And how long has this look dev process been going on for now?
For about 2 weeks now, I believe. We're reaching a place where it's getting kind of interesting. But there's multiple environments, so we need to test those as well. But the first one, we're getting to a place where we like it.
Very good. So when it comes with developing your art style, I noticed that since the Spider-Verse film came out, you started practicing with this hull shape system that you also developed with geometry nodes. And you also created some of these characters with some really cool shaders and other things, especially this one of your most recent characters, Kath. So I wanted to ask you, with your look development and your style of creating these things, I know I mentioned rigging earlier with the publicity, but in reality, I was referring to, I guess you could say, the technical direction or the development of the technical side of creating an NPR character. Because there's one thing rigging your character, but the other thing is creating the line work, creating the shader work, because the shaders sometimes have to be procedural. The other thing is creating the style and then putting the bones into it to the animation. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about your process.
Well, just for clarification, the orange robot that we saw before, that's not my character. I didn't make it. I wanted to test shaders on something that was moving, and so I downloaded a robot off of the internet. I think it was Turbo Squid, if I'm not mistaken. The actual artist who made the robot is Battle Stories on Twitter, battle_stories. If anybody would like to check them out, they do great work. And yeah, I was just testing out shaders with it. For Kath, I did that from scratch. And when thinking about process, I don't really know how exactly to go about it. So I started with a drawing because Kath was my first 3D project ever. When I first started learning Blender, I did for my first project, I wanted to make that character, and I had this drawing, and so I decided that would be my first project. And it took me about 3 months to figure it out because I didn't know anything about 3D. And I finally got it to a place where I kind of liked it. Looking back now, obviously, there's a lot that could be better. And so I decided to remake the character recently. Excuse me. Sorry. And so I started to remake the character, especially after Bucket Boy challenged me to make a character to do some fighting animations because he has his character, Bucket Boy. And we wanted to make a little scene of the two characters fighting. And so he challenged me to do it, and I developed Kath. So I started by redrawing the character, this time in a more of a character sheet style instead of just an illustration, which is what I had before. Redesigned some of the proportions and shapes. Initially, she only had one arm and one leg, not two of each. So that's also a new version. And once I had the drawing, I started modeling all the pieces. I'm not great at modeling. Those hands are downloaded. Those are not mine. I think that's the only thing I downloaded. It's uh, the hand models. And once I had the model done, I didn't worry too much about shading. Then I went on to rigging, which I did all from scratch because she has like detachable limbs. And I thought using Auto Rig Pro, which we use a lot, me and Bucket in production, I thought using that would be too restrictive. So I decided to make it from scratch. And that way it has IK and FK with limbs that can fly out if needed. I still haven't done a full animation with this character, showing like the full um, power of this rig, but hopefully I'll get to make that sometime soon, and I'll be able to show some of that. I'd say my favorite part about the rig is the changing hands, because it's technically the same hand. I just have a bone that if you stretch it, it changes the color of the hand. And so I have the animation of the hand going in and going out, and I change the scale and the color while it's in the arm. And that's how I made the hand change, which is a cool tidbit. And then after that, did I actually start going into shading and compositing, which is still sort of in development. I'm still not 100% sure how I want to render this character, if it is specific to the character or to whatever animation it is on. That's still what I'm playing around with at the moment. I'm still not 100% happy with the shading on Kath. But the compositing was very interesting, trying to make the line work look like, what's the name? Ballpoint pens,
Right.
on paper, that it bleeds a little bit. That was an interesting process, but it's mostly just me playing around with nodes for hours and forgetting to eat and things like that.
Getting to
I'm
eat.
sure a lot of you can relate.
So how are you working the line art? Is this all in the compositor, or you're using grease pencil?
The line art is grease pencil. If you had it open before, it was a more blue render. Yes, that one. So that is before the compositing. That's how it looks. That is a viewport render that I've made.
Right.
And after, what the compositing is doing is simply isolating the outline, which is sort of easy because it's the only pure black element in the whole render. And then it's applying blurs almost randomly. I think I have a Voronoi texture controlling if it's more or less blurry, a vertical blur in specific, and overlaying that with the original image with a red tint ends up giving you sort of that bleeding effect.
Yeah, I've been looking at the video that you posted about it, because it's kind of an interesting effect that you have going on top of the grease pencil. It's actually quite clever.
It's just blurring. It's literally just blur controlled by a Voronoi, and that's it.
Sometimes the simple things goes the longest way.
Oh, I never do anything complicated.
Right, you mentioned you don't have a story for him yet, but Bucket Boy challenged you to kind of a fight, but with another character, to kind of bring it out.
Yes.
So I guess we're going to see more action from her later.
I would hope so. Really hoping for it. I have sort of an origin story idea being that I'm storyboarding, but I'm not sure how fast I can get that done. It's more of a side project because I have more important side projects, and then I have my actual projects.
Right.
And yeah, you just start stacking them up. So I'm not sure. The story, sorry, I'm reading the chat. Andromeda is asking me to tell the origin story of Kath.
Right, yeah.
Well, if to put it very simply, I wanted this character to be to work sort of as satire, because I thought, well, if I'm making a superpowered character, it's hard not to fall into cliches, right? So I thought, let's go all in on the cliches. And so Kath originally is just a rebellious girl that's trying to fight this corporation that is called Evil Corporation. That's what they have on the door. It's Evil Corporation, and she tries to plant a bomb, but it blows up too soon, and so she blows up. And yeah, then the Evil Corporation takes the remains of her body and attempts to turn her into a weapon, but she escapes with the help of one of the scientists. And that's about it. That's about the origin story as far as I thought about it.
Makes sense. So another project that you mentioned when you started out with your freelance direction in your career was the Endless Engines project.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that you wanted to gush over when we were connected earlier. So I have a lot of questions about this one too. So
Please.
I wanted to ask you, okay, so tell me about this project. What do you consider? You mentioned you learned a lot through it based on the challenges. You've made some incredible smears. You've worked on some really cool bloom effects and bullet holes and explosions and really interesting animation. Really cool shader work on the wheels and other stylized effects going on. You even got these streaks going through, speed streaks, all in NPR. So I wanted to ask you, tell me about this project. What did you learn from here?
Oh, that project was the first time I opened the compositor in Blender, actually. I had never tried it before, and I went too deep too fast. I can show you the project file in a minute, but I have three copies of the same scene, and in each copy there's 4 view layers. So just so that I could composite everything exactly as I wanted in the end. But looking back, now that I've used the compositor a bit more, I've overcomplicated a lot of things. But I did learn a lot. I was already all right with nodes and in the shader editor and a little bit of geometry nodes. I think that was one of the first times I played around with geometry proximity in geometry nodes. That is how I get the smoke at the start to part when the bike goes through it. That's with geometry proximity. And
right there.
it was also the first time that I did a full scene. Because before that in advertising, most of what I did was product rendering or just a can of beans sliding into frame or a mascot here and there. But there wasn't time to build a scene, to build a story, or where you could build a story, but it was like on a backdrop and things like that. It felt very empty. It felt like I was just doing the thing that was in the center of the frame and not a full shot. And this was my first chance to, try to tell a story in 5 seconds and to build a city, build the elements, interaction between separate characters. I had never animated multiple characters before, that if you can call them characters, I guess. And so, yeah. And I also started meeting a lot of people because on the challenges Discord, on Clint's Discord, they have like open voice chats, and I would spend all day on the voice chat while I was working on this. Didn't have anything else to do, so I was just working on this all day for about 13 days. And yeah, started interacting with more 3D artists. I was pretty isolated before, I think. And sharing knowledge. Most of what I've learned of compositing was through that. Wasn't even through tutorials, because I can't find many tutorials on compositing in Blender, actually.
Yeah, there is not a lot.
But yeah, this project not only taught me how to do a lot of 3D things, it taught me how to reach out and ask for help and ask for advice and things like that, and just overall interact more with the community. It was very rewarding in that sense.
Yeah, going through each frame, each pass that you've done, 13 days is actually quite impressive to get this project done. So you worked very efficiently, and you managed to also go through each pass, refining things, adding in details, adding in your line art, work in the
It, it
animation.
was it was a lot of experimentation because I at no point in this challenge that I know what I was gonna make. I when I heard the challenge, I was like, okay, let's look up vehicles on Pinterest, and I saw a drawing of a car with a tank head, and I'm like, that's cute. Let me try to find the model of a car and a tank, put them together. Then I started animating that, and then I was like, oh, what if there was a bike with a machine gun? And so I added that in. I'm like, that right side is looking a bit empty. So I put in the drone, but it was always like this, even to the most technical things. So I did a few tests like, do I want line art? Do I not want line art? Do I want the explosions to look realistic or cartoony, or and the smoke, things like that? I was deciding things as I went along. I didn't really plan it, um, and it was fun to just have the space to do that. I highly recommend anyone here to participate in these challenges whenever you have a chance. And if you can dedicate your like a few days of full time to it, it can be really rewarding and fun overall.
That's true. Just recently, we ran a competition here in the server for the splash screen of Beaver Artists. We had about 11 contestants. And Quackers, he won the splash screen, but it turned out quite nice. And every Monday, I also do a Blender Royale in Arundel's Discord server, but that's a 1 hour challenge. Not a lot of time to do a lot, but it is very nice to do.
I gotta try one of those. I actually don't have any idea how fast I can be. I would like to find out.
It's worth giving it a go. We're right now at like 100 and something episodes. The last one was this Arepa piece.
Mm-hmm. That blows my mind. Like it looks too good.
But yeah, you have
Is
to.
that reflections or smoke on top?
Smoke. So
Is it an actual volumetric simulation?
it's a texture on a plane with an alpha hashed mask.
Ah, okay.
Super simple stuff. I mean, it's 1 hour. You can't do a lot.
Yes, yes. Is it tracking to camera? Good. Or just in place?
There are 3 planes. One is here, one is there, another one's there. 3 copies.
Oh, okay. That's how you get the parallax.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's how we did a lot of the smoke for the first Suicide Boys music video as well. We put in
Is it
a
this
noise
one
texture
here?
on the alpha. No, that's actually from a friend of mine. That's
Oh,
I can talk about that one. It's pretty fun. That was while I was still at my old job. I would do these small gigs for fun on the side. And this is a friend of mine, Adler Jack. He was going to put out a song, and he asked like, "Hey, could you do a music video?" And I'm like, "I'm down." And so we took a weekend out. We filmed a bunch of stuff, and then I spent about a month working on it, doing color correction tests and VFX, while another friend of mine was editing the video. And yeah, I hadn't directed a music video in a while, like since high school, and so it was an interesting process, but we were very loose about it. It was very experimental.
your color grading is so nice as well.
I appreciate that. But yeah, that was a fun project. I don't have as much to say about it.
Yeah, I was
It's on my
actually.
backyard.
I know your trajectory has been quite productive since you started getting into it 2019, but I did have a little bit of difficulty finding a lot of your content. But I noticed that your website was your key project was the Metallica one. Another one was this music video, The Endless Engines. Your things
Yes,
on
I
Twitter.
haven't updated my portfolio. I've been meaning to replace that music video with the Suicide Boys project, just because, you know, it's more 3D oriented. I'm not really looking into directing or filming as much right now. Well,
Makes sense.
directing animated pieces, that would be great, but not live action.
Which leads me to my next question. Like you've you've dabbled a little bit into commercials and publicity, a little bit into visual effects and audio visuals, compositing, and now you're getting into animation and NPR, and you're kind of starting to do your freelance things and you're picking and choosing your projects. So, which path are you tending to go down? Which one do you prefer? What type of area of the industry do you like the most? And why?
I like being a 3D generalist because it's not specific. um, I found that 3D was the one thing. Like I've been through a lot of mediums, some of which I'm better at than others. Obviously, I would say that the one that I'm most proficient at is 3D. But the reason for that is because it was the first medium that I thought I wouldn't mind doing this every single day. It was the first thing where it felt like expansive enough for me to not get bored of it. Well, it also depends on what kind of work you're doing, but especially now with freelance, where every few months I'm doing a completely different project, it feels like it fits with my personality, at least for now. I don't know if it's an age thing. Maybe in a few years I'll be like, damn, I wish I was in an office right now.
Nah, I don't
But
think that's ever going to come. Well, it hasn't for me.
but so far it doesn't really fit with me. I'm not one to plan things. I don't like planning. I like preparing, if that makes sense. Uh, so it's just like when I quit my job, I knew I wasn't sure how much work I would get in freelance. So instead of trying to get ahead of the game and prepare a portfolio and everything else, all I did was move into a house where I didn't have to pay rent, uh, so that I could develop my own voice in a way. And so I didn't really plan jobs or plan a trajectory. All that I wanted was to figure out who I was in this 3D world and just art world in general.
And you're still working that through. Getting
Oh yeah, it's a life type thing, you know. Yeah, until the end of our days, we'll be figuring ourselves out, and that's the beauty of it. Take time to learn about yourself. It's
good.
it's a cool process.
And you're also creating your own style as well, your own kind of I mean, if you have a particular look or a vibe or technique or style that other people cannot do, that is you, that's your personality. I guess if somebody vibes with what you do, they know who to call. So that's a pretty nice strategy, I suppose. So, but what do you think about when it comes to freelancing? What kind of clients have you been targeting in general?
Well, because of both Bucket Boy and the Metallica music videos, right now they mostly come to me or to Bucket Boy. So I haven't really experienced the targeting at someone, trying to get someone to be a client or proposing. Uh, um, so right now it's mostly a matter of I think like, do I want to be in this project, or even more importantly, can I make this project better? Both in the sense of, do I want to, do I have, but also, do I have the space to? Are they allowing me to put in my own voice into this? And also, do I want to work with this person in a way? But that's the second part, where you get to know the client a little bit, and sometimes you vibe, sometimes you don't. Sometimes the project is so interesting that I don't even mind if I'm not getting along great with a client immediately, like we're not best friends or anything. But sometimes those things do happen where you just click with someone, and I feel like those are the most fun projects to get into, because I feel like people just hear each other better, and listen to each other's input, and having a little bit of my own voice put into something is something that's really important to me. And I guess that's the type of client that I like. It's the type of client that lets me have fun.
Lets you have fun and lets you be you. It's exciting.
Exactly.
It's really cool how you have I guess you could say, like back in the day, I used to have a sense of my pillars of happiness, or what makes me happy with the work, what keeps me motivated to get the job done. Because sometimes 3D, yes, can be quick and interesting, but sometimes it's a bit of a slog to get the project finished on time, or to get the project finished full stop. It can be a little bit difficult sometimes because there are a lot of nuances, there's a lot of iteration, there's a lot of processes and things that you need to get right to get the final goal that you have. But your motivation is very clear, and you know what makes you happy, and you know how to navigate that.
So far, it's only been 7 months.
Which is good. I think you're starting out with the right foot, and it's very admirable, and that's why I wanted to talk with you, because I have noticed that your trajectory has been short, but it has been very powerful. So that power that you have to finish your projects, to get the things done, to adapt quickly, and to know what makes you happy. How did you get to these conclusions so quickly? And
I think working in a 9 to 5 for a year, 2 years should do it for any creative. It's not that I completely despised my job, or I loved the people that I was working with. They were great. It was a great team, and we had a lot of fun on the way. But I started feeling like, because when I first joined the company, I was excited and I was happy with the work because I was learning how to do 3D. So I didn't care what prompts I had to do. All I cared about was learning how to do it and the creativity in the technique, and not necessarily on the end result. So that carried me through in the beginning, but towards the end of my time there, I just started to feel like a bit soulless, because I was, as I said, a lot of our clients were supermarket food brands and things like that. So I had to do a few mascots, which was the most fun projects. But for the most part, I was just making shampoo bottles and food cans and things like that, making a little tune for it and doing a little animation of them spinning around or something, and then putting it out, because we had very short deadlines, so there was not really time to develop crazy commercials and interesting ideas. It was mostly going for what works and what's fastest. And that made me feel like I just wasn't enjoying what I was doing. It didn't feel like something that I would want to do, or that would come out of me. And it didn't feel like I was learning anymore. It felt like I was reusing the same 5 tricks, if you will. And I wanted to change that. So once I decided to become a freelancer, I took that as a priority.
There you go. I guess you had to taste what it's like to know what you don't like.
Yeah. Or go work for Disney or Pixar or something. I don't know. Go work on the next Spider-Verse, and then you'll know what you want.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. But it's hard to know what you want unless you've tried it, I suppose.
Yeah. And I'm sure in a year or two, I'm going to want something else. It's just how people are. We grow, we develop different needs, different wants. It's just how it is.
Yeah, keep evolving and changing and things. But yes, I remember working in factories, on fruit farms, and cleaning up buildings. When I started my working career, I guess it had nothing to do with 3D. I was teaching English for a very long time, managed houses as a landlord. I had to do these things just to survive, but at the end of the day, it made me realize, nah, that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
Then getting into your idea of like, would you like doing this every day? Sure. You found it. That's good. Now you're working it through. So I'm wanting to ask you this question, this next one, about the freelancing work. A lot of people have asked me, so how do you begin? How do you do it? One thing you did was you cut your costs. You moved into a sustainable living cost situation to take risks, to say yes or no to different clients. But what things did you learn that were through difficulty or through challenges? that helped you to begin freelancing? If you could go back and tell yourself, hey, don't do this, or do this, what would that be?
That's an interesting question. So just to for a little clarification, I've been doing freelance full time since January, but before that, I had been doing freelance on my free time, both while I was studying and while I was working at in publicity. I always did freelance on my free time, although smaller projects, and well, I didn't have as much time to dedicate to it. Neither did I depend on it. So when I finally took the step of becoming a full-time freelancer, I had already learned a bunch of things about clients and lines and payments and how to reach out to people. But one thing that I had already learned, but I had forgotten in January, was that you have to engage with the community, engage with the people who work, who want to do the same thing you do, especially in 3D. Everybody, like on Twitter, Instagram, whatever social media, Discord, everybody wants everybody to succeed. Everybody wants everybody to know things and to share knowledge, and it's one of the most powerful things. um, Trying to help others, trying to engage with others, that was it was a big change for me. I wasn't expecting it to affect what I was doing that much, but if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have met Bucket Boy, which then led me to a bunch of cool projects just because I met him at a random time, and it turned out to be a time where he was going to go into a bunch of cool projects. He wasn't even aware of it when we first started talking because it hadn't happened yet. So you never know. There's also people that might ask you for help, and do help them, because later down the line they might be offered a gig and they like you and you've helped them, and maybe they can't do the gig, or maybe they need help, and so they call you up, and that way you just got a job. um, Everybody is trying to help each other, and just do your part and it will come back to you. I would say that's the biggest lesson that I've learned about freelancing online, especially when you can work from home. um, Engage with the people that do the same thing you do. You'll learn a lot, you'll grow a lot, and it might even help you get your first or your next gig.
That's right, it's the people that you rub shoulders with, I suppose.
We don't have the chance of talking to Picasso or Da Vinci to learn how they work. Yeah. Well,
A living
you got a
artist
bunch of
can.
artists out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
As Cullen mentioned, our communities are the best communities. That's good.
100%. I would say that's it. If you want something more technical, always ask for a down payment.
Yeah.
Get paid first, get it like half first, and then half at the end of a project. Everybody is safe in that situation. So yeah,
It's
do
only
that,
fair.
and also try to get contracts and things on paper as many times as you can.
Okay. So I want to go circle back to the beginning. And you mentioned that you like being a 3D generalist, but you're also not sure where you're going to go or how you're going to develop. I wanted to ask, with your experience so far, I mean, you found out your likes, you found out the things that you like to do, and you also like the concept of 3D generalism. There is a typical, I guess you could say, urban myth or a belief that a lot of people think to work in the industry you need to be very good at a couple of things. You need to be very specialized to get good work, or depending on the context, you need to be a good generalist that adapts very well. I wanted to ask about your opinion. What do you think about this concept? Which do you think is more valuable, or in what context, which is more valuable? Focus on a key area, or to become a better generalist?
Well, just like everything that I've been saying, do what feels best for you, and whichever you have more fun in. Because I would say that someone that is a generalist and that focuses on a lot of things is as valuable as someone that is specialized in one particular thing. Their brains just kind of work differently. And depending on the context, you might need one or the other. Like if you're in a small indie production, a generalist is a great thing to have. They can fill in a lot of parts of the team. They can help other people and other members. But sometimes you need to achieve something very specific, and you can't do it. So hire someone that is specialized in that thing, and they can do an amazing job at it that no one else can do. So either way, I would say that those both of them are most valuable. Um, Even in terms of like charging, either if you're a generalist or a specialist, you should charge according to your skill within those two. As a generalist, you should charge taking into account how versatile you are, how fast you learn, and how quick you are to come up with solutions. Um, and also, depending on the project, how much you can help. When you're a specialist, you should simply, how specialized are you? That's your way to go. So I wouldn't say one is more valuable than the other at all. I would just say go with your gut.
Go with your gut. Lead with the heart. That's good. Okay, so I'm going to open up the microphone to the audience right now. If you'd like to,
Mhm.
if you have a question, you can. I think Discord has an ability to raise the hand. If not, I'll invite anybody up onto the stage. So if you have a question for Pojo, we also have the ability to take a look at somebody's art, and we can take a closer look and share some constructive criticism. So if you would like to come up to the stage, you're more than welcome. So we got two people now. We got Andromeda and Shez.
Hello.
So Andromeda, do you have a question?
Do I have a question?
Yeah.
Let me see. What's your workflow for storytelling, animation, like everything from start to finish in like a concise matter and the most
Okay.
important points? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
In a
Okay.
way, I still haven't made like a full short, so I'm not exactly sure
But
how it is in terms
have
of storytelling.
you have worked with a team, so how does it work? Like just
Uh,
the most
different
important.
teams different teams have different pipelines and methods.
Mm.
Um, for the music videos, Metallica and the Suicide Boys, we had very short deadlines. We had like a week and a half per video to do the whole thing. And
Nothing.
yeah, it was insane. Uh, so our pipeline relied very much on uh, instead of doing 3D first and then drawing the 2D on top, what we would do is the 2D artists would be drawing their art and their animations, while we were developing 3D assets. And once we started getting the 2D animation, we'd simply make the environments fit. And after the environments fit, we did a little bit of compositing and then just exporting. So that was the process for that one. On my own projects, I'm not very linear. I start with whatever I feel like starting. For example, with Kath, I modeled the head and the body, no arms, no legs, but I had rigged the head already just because I wanted to rig the eyes. I was curious about how I was gonna do that, so I just modeled the head and rigged the eyes to get out of the way because I was excited, and then I moved on to the rest. So I wouldn't say I'm a great reference in terms of pipeline, but yeah.
I guess at the end of the day, your passion just to see your work into something is what drove you forward.
So
It's obsession.
how big was how big was the team for the Metallica video?
The 2D team, I'm not exactly sure. I think it was around 15 people, something like that. The 3D team was just me and Bucket Boy.
15.
Same thing for the Suicide Boys. It was just us.
The other person.
That's great.
Okay. But that's like a small team.
Yeah. Still, it's a reasonable amount. I'm kind of drunk also came up onto the stage, so I wanted to give him a question. So kind of drunk. What do you have to ask for today?
I was going to ask two things for Pojo. Like the first one is to if how a summary just quickly. How he usually takes his creative process. For instance, does he have a journal? Does he keep like folders of references? Does he use Pinterest? And let's start with this one.
Okay. I use PureRef a lot for reference. Other than that, just jotting down ideas. I usually keep a.
Just to be clear, I think I said it wrong, but how do you feed your ideas? For instance, do you watch movies? Do you like take pictures? On the, how do you find the concepts that you want?
Well, I don't think any creative person can answer that very clearly. I like to take walks in the woods and think. I travel a little bit because I have family and friends that are away from me. So sometimes I get on a bus and I have a 4-hour drive and I just look out the window and I make movies in my head. And I have Evernote installed on my phone, so I just note down whatever I need. I do little sketches if necessary. And yeah, I would say my inspiration comes a lot from movies, from watching other people's work on Twitter and other social media. I consume a lot of TV shows, animations. I watch a lot of shorts on YouTube and things like that. But it mostly comes to me when I'm like just doing nothing, absolutely nothing.
You have some time to think, I suppose.
Exactly.
But I guess the trick is paying attention, I suppose, and trying to recall things and jot things down when it comes to you, and putting yourself some time to do it.
Do you have like a preference for like maybe movie directors or like movie genres or TV show genres or like books or like anything that you might say this is amazing, everyone should like get into this stuff?
I'm pretty basic. I like David Fincher's work a lot. It doesn't have anything to do with animation, but I like it and I feel like it influences me in a way. I just haven't really figured out which way. And yeah, I think also everybody go watch Suzume if you haven't. It's an amazing movie. I've watched it the other day and I've been in love with it, and I want to recreate some of its elements in 3D or attempt to. It's stunning and just an amazing story. I think that's about it. I don't really have most of the stuff that I watch is live action, which I guess is interesting to bring like ideas into animation in my head. I believe.
That's good.
My other question was, how do you, if you do like lots of very, very, very different projects, how do you stay motivated? For instance, isn't there like trends in what you do for like, oh, I just did an NPR. Like, how do you keep yourself from repeating the same process? Because your work is so diverse. It's so incredible.
Thank you. Well, it's a big. I can't stay still for too long. That's just my nature, I think. But also because a lot of these projects, especially stuff like Kath and the other robot, those are visual development projects. So it's projects that were built specifically to experiment and to try widely different things. So yeah, a lot of the projects as you see aren't necessarily different projects. They're just me trying to iterate on ideas and to come up with new styles and new visual aesthetics and things like that. I hope that answers your question.
That's a good answer.
It does perfectly.
Okay, I have another question by Shez, who doesn't have a microphone at the moment. But he's asked, or they've asked, do you regret or wish you had done? Do you have anything that you regret or wish that you had done in your 3D art journey so far?
I wish I had started it earlier. Because I only picked it up. I grew up never expecting to become a 3D artist. I only picked up Blender once I was already finishing college almost. So up until then, I never imagined myself being in this situation. I always thought I'd be something else. I didn't know what exactly, maybe, but I didn't know I was going to end up as a 3D artist. So I think the thing that I regret the most is not falling in love with it sooner. Because I could be so much better now. Like I'd be going insane right now.
It's true. I wish I started earlier too. Sometimes I spent maybe 4 or 5 years just getting lost around the world.
Yeah, I don't think it's a very helpful answer to you. I'm sorry. But yeah, I believe that's the thing that I regret the most.
I guess the advice or the takeaway from that is like, you start now, get into it now, just keep going. You won't regret it if you really
Exactly.
like it. So do what makes you happy. Follow the heart. Follow your gut, and do it today, and then you go forward. No regrets. That's good. Killin has also joined the stage, and I'm not sure if you have a microphone, but did you have a question, Killin?
Well, it's not so much a question. It's just like, man, Pojo, I came across your work during the Endless Engines competition, and like watching you post that, all that progress was like very cool to see. I love the style piece that you put together. It's not so much questions. It's just like, really enjoyed it.
Oh man, I appreciate you too. You like, before I started blowing up with all of the Endless Engines thing, because my numbers aren't too big, but they got really big with that in comparison. And you were one of the first people that like followed me and reached out about it. And yeah, I appreciate you a lot. The moment you joined in, I was like, hell yeah, I hope he has a good question. You don't. I'm kind of disappointed in that sense. But
thank you. I appreciate it.
It's fine. I'm just messing with you.
I am disappointed that we didn't get that one project. You know, I don't want to.
Oh yeah,
much because that
Yeah.
project is so cool. But
yeah.
would've
I've been
loved to see
watching
it.
the devlogs, and I'm like, God damn! I wish I had made that model.
But yeah, no questions for me. Just really, really happy that you're up here and speaking, and I can't wait to watch the whole video later.
Hey, I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, it's been super exciting. Well, it looks like we're getting close to the end of the hour for today. So I just wanted to summarize that, I mean, we could have a look at a little bit of the art from the finished artwork, but the most recent that we've seen is from a newcomer today, and he's currently been publishing things. I'm Kind of Drunk also published a new piece with a kit bash render that he made from pre-made assets just now. That's a nice, cool piece. Nice orange sunset vibes. We've also got a number of other pieces from graffiti in a dark, abandoned building, also during the day with a nice sunlight filling it out. So it was a nice lighting exercise by the newcomer. Thanks for sharing this. Also, your work on your photorealistic canyons. Very beautiful.
Oh wow.
The sci-fi buildings in the background there.
Sci-fi antennas, I believe.
Yeah. Down
Really
there.
good.
Need to make my magnifying glass a bit bigger. We also got a video by Yusuf that we've interviewed here as well. He's been sharing things on Instagram quite often for an art piece. So Yusuf is from Panama, and he's been publishing pieces almost daily. And which always comes with quite good lighting and layout, and he's trying to integrate different bits of story into it. It's been quite nice. Shiz as well, who asked the question earlier about the regrets or things that you wished you would have done. He also created his first little meme animation on YouTube, which is good to see.
Oh hell yeah.
And
I
last,
also made a meme.
you did.
It's fun. I did. I don't think I put it on YouTube. It was somewhere on my Twitter. But I have the video. I can just screen share it.
Yeah,
I believe.
your advice is sharing things onto social networks and things like that. I need to see more of your work. You need to upload more because you have so much content to share. I really would love to see more.
Yeah, and I post mostly on Twitter where everything gets lost so easily. That's really on me.
Especially
Oh,
now.
by the way, since we're talking about social networks, have you considered migrating out of Twitter? Because I've seen lots of interesting people from 3D migrating to other networks such as Blue Sky or Mastodon.
I've tried Mastodon, but the instance where I created my account, I don't know, disappeared, and so my account disappeared along with it, I believe.
Oh,
And so it didn't feel like a trusty place to go to switch from Twitter. I do want to switch at some point, but I think I'd need to find like an actual good substitute, even if it's in a different style of content, if you will.
Yeah, it's a tricky one because Twitter's so big in the top 10 of the social networks. It's like you're moving away from the city. Yeah, it's a little bit tricky.
Twitter, no, X.
Yeah,
Yeah, X.
City X.
Twitter's dead now. It's yeah.
Oh, I found my meme. Sorry.
Is anybody
Oh,
on
I can't
Threads?
share my screen. It doesn't let me.
I am on Threads, but it is very quiet. To me, it's going to take a very long time for Twitter to die because it is at least 300 million active users per month.
Oh,
So it's some like even Threads with its 50 million active users this month and 100 million new signups last month is still a fraction of the size. And any other social network is struggling to have 2, 5, 10 million active users per month. So to get at least 100 million active users onto the social network with that kind of reach, with Twitter being at 300 to 400 million, is going to be a hard stretch. So even if 25%, 50% migrate from Twitter to somewhere, to the same place, you're not going to have the same kind of giant community and reach than anywhere else. So it's a little bit difficult to think about, well, where do we go? Where are your friends? Yeah, that's important. But if you want like big open city where you can sell a whole bunch of cool stuff or get something viral or get hundreds of thousands of followers as a potential, you're going to have to be in the city.
mm-hmm.
Which is there's not a lot of choices really. Maybe Reddit, maybe Facebook, maybe Instagram, maybe Threads, but it's Meta or Twitter
Yeah.
X.
The thing I love most about how Twitter goes with the art community is just how people share their studies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it the same way on any other platform.
Ooh, somebody says hello. Oho Face or Ojo Face on YouTube says hello.
Oh, hey Ojo.
He's also
How's it
mentioned that
going?
cross-posting is the best middle ground in his opinion. Which I agree.
I did have like an automatic cross poster between Mastodon and Twitter at some point, but it didn't send everything. It was weird.
It's a tricky thing. But you got to be where the people are.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, I sent my meme onto the chat because I couldn't share my screen while you're sharing. So if anyone would like to see it, it's in the chat. If you'd like to share it, go for it. It's really stupid, and that's the point.
Taking a look. Procedural pipe. Procedural metal pipe.
Yes.
Ce n'est pas une procedural pipe.
Resolution 3, 6 radius, length, and thickness.
By the way, this is actually available on Gumroad.
How much? How much?
I think I think it's free. I don't remember actually.
You should set it to free plus so everyone can pick whatever they want.
Oh yeah, no, obviously I do that for every product, but in the hopes that there are good Samaritans out there. Yeah, it is free. Free
Oh, good.
plus.
All right. Well, cool. I highly recommend go visiting the Gumroad as well. So, well,
Yes,
thank you.
please buy my procedural metal pipe.
Yeah, exactly. And the procedural paper cutout effect, I think, is a worthy buy. And also the procedural surface imperfections or the procedural metal shader. Those three things I've found to be really high grade. And everything else is free. That's kind of cool. The pipe has hydraulics, as ever. So everybody, thank you for connecting. Thank you for your questions. And also, Pojo, thank you for putting yourself out there, sharing your origin story. It wasn't as much as a supervillain as I thought it would be, but it's still pretty good.
No. That's
And,
all marketing.
And it's also very encouraging to hear that you can find what makes you happy and you can know what you want to do and you can take your steps to do it and you can do it from early without a problem. And it's very encouraging to see that. And I hope people have that.
I have a last question.
One last question. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
How do you actually make friends or like connections, or like how do you connect with people?
Oh,
Does that make
like in
sense?
life or networking?
Well, like both.
Okay.
Like the middle good part, like both at the same time.
I think I try to say to people what I would like to hear, if I post something and I'm like a small artist starting out, I would be thrilled to get like someone that I don't know that isn't like friends or family commenting on it and saying like, wow, this is amazing, and maybe even giving some insights on how to make it better and how to grow. I love reaching out to smaller artists, and not smaller, but people that are starting out, more beginners, because I feel like they really need some encouragement, and a lot of them are doing interesting things. It's just that the things around it, their skills haven't developed enough for it to be like a full piece that is incredibly beautiful, but they might be doing interesting techniques or have a different voice that is interesting, and I like to nurture that. As for artists bigger than you, and that are more experienced, just be respectful of their time. um, if you want to reach out, ask for advice, or just be like, hey, I made this piece inspired by your thing. Do you have like any tips or anything to improve? Ask questions. I get people asking me questions on my DMs all the time, and I'm always happy to answer them. Most people are, worst case scenario, they just don't have time. So yeah, just be respectful, be kind, be encouraging, and you'll do great.
That's true.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. It's like if you treat others as you would like to be treated, like comment on somebody's post because you like getting the comments, or help somebody
Yeah.
out when they have a question or they're having trouble because you would like to be helped out. That kind of like a give and take, kind of a connection of empathy, connecting with other people. I highly agree with that. It's very effective.
Yeah. Okay, I believe now we can close.
Now we can close. All right. So I'm going to mention this. In 2 weeks' time, we have another artist who's going to be a special guest and another surprise. He's a character artist who has been working very well with a marriage of Centerbrush and Blender. I'm and also a good friend of mine on Discord that I've known for quite a while now. So I'm really excited to finally get to interview him and share his story with you in 2 weeks' time. And also, I'm talking with another NPR artist who currently has a little bit of difficulty with English, but we are going to be doing a very special episode with him later. And for episode 100 in 1 month's time is going to be something special for everybody. And I'm still organizing it to see what it's going to be, but episode 100 is also going to be special. So that's a little sneak peek for the next 3 episodes. Thank you, Pojo, for your time today. Thank you for explaining everything. It's kind of exciting to see where you're going. And I really...
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, hope to see more of your work on these social networks. I want to see more. And thank you, everyone, for your listening.
I'll make sure to post everything that I post online into a repository so that in the future people can actually find my stuff.
Yeah. It's always tricky. It's hard to be seen on the internet, but sometimes it's on yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, well, So thank you for everything, and I wish you a really good evening and a really excellent weekend. So I'll see you 2 weeks' time in a similar time, same day. Have a good